There is a space where you are all you need, where you are all you want. All there is here. Welcome to the Source Connection, conversations about who we truly are, the possibilities of creation and the new earth we are birthing. With your hosts, Tara Long and Liz B.
Welcome, everyone, to one more episode of The Source Connection. Some people call me Liz B. I'm here with my co-host, Tara Long, and our very special guest, Rhoda Todoran. Let's take a moment here to just arrive into this now space where time is irrelevant. We're just going to deepen the breath for a moment. I'm actually excited to play with breath today together. And so just ground yourself. If you're sitting, maybe spread your butt cheeks and feel the rooting of your physical body. Take connection to whatever surface you're on. Closing the outer eyes. Just deepening the inhale and the out breath. I was going to say outhale. And just letting go whatever was happening before you got here, what has happened in your day, your week. Noticing the thoughts, the sensations, just allowing them to present themselves and trying to not get attached the best you can. And for the next few minutes here, let's play with what we call 1 minute breath. You're going to inhale and do a counting and see how long you can inhale for. Then you're going to hold the breath for that same amount. And then you're going to exhale in that same count. So maybe start small to where you can complete the full cycle, inhaling for as long as you can, holding for the same count and exhaling for the same count. It's called 1 minute breath because ideally you would inhale for 20 seconds, hold for 20 seconds, and exhale for 20 seconds. That may be a big number to start, so start where you can. And let's just experience this together now. In and out through the nose. Next time you inhale, just take the deepest breath you can. Pause the breath and bring your hands overhead. Stretch the arms up and just shake, 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 shake. Inside out, sweep the arms down. Welcome. Here we are with two of my favorite people.
That was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yummy.
Welcome back. We're here with my dear friend, Rhoda, artist, breathwork, facilitator, author. I mean, the list, podcaster, the list goes on and on. Can you tell us, Rhoda, what brings you to this now moment here with us? A little bit of your story.
Where do I begin? Usually when people ask me that, they ask me how I got to become a breathwork facilitator. And so I start with the dark night of the soul, my first one. Many since then. But I think really, I've heard all your other podcasts, that I was listening to your first one. And my whole being was like, yeah, of course. Yes. And everything resonated so well, obviously, because we've known each other for a while. And this is a conversation we've had for numerous times. But really, I think what brings me here is, that quote that Carl Jung said, the world will ask you who you are, and if you don't have an answer, it will tell you. And that is what we're born into. And I feel like that's not different for me. I've had that same journey of like being just not feeling like I fit in, but just kind of going along with the flow and being told that I need to be a certain way, or, whether or not it was verbal or energetic, I led this path not knowing there was anything else. And then the dark night of the soul happened during my marriage that broke up, my first marriage. And I was in a bad state. I was suicidal at the time, and I was seeing a therapist, and she was worried about me because I was having these suicidal thoughts. So she had me go to a psychiatrist and put me on to some antidepressants. And as I was healing myself with talk therapy at the time, because that's all I knew of at the time, and the idea or the plans that I had for ending my life kind of formulated into a trip around the world. So which is something I always wanted to do. I had dreamt about it as a little girl, and I used to live near the Los Angeles airport, and I used to watch the planes fly by and, wish for it to take me away, because my life was not all rosy at the time. And So I did. I took myself like a year off of the life that I had and just kept going. I started in Europe, and it was very hard at the time of just like being alone by yourself. And it was almost like a restructuring of who I am. It was the first time that I had asked myself, like, who are you? What do you want to be? You're not this and you're not that. You're not happy there.
Mm.
And then that's when I started getting to that source, trying to figure out what that essence of me is. And it brought me to Australia, where I lived for about almost 5 years. And that's where I discovered breathwork. And that's another story of how I came to breathwork. I was dating different people at the time, and had a boyfriend, and another man that I was dating before came to see me, and I was raped. And I was just so distraught because I felt like I had gotten to a place where I kind of knew myself, was healing a lot, and discovering different methods of healing myself. And this happened again. Wasn't the first time that it happened in my life. And so I kind of just was at a loss. And I had a good friend at the time say, just come with me away on this weekend. You know, we're doing this breathwork thing, but I had no idea what it was or what I was going to be doing. But if that event hadn't happened, I might have not gone. Like, I just was so desperate to be out of where I was, the feelings that I was having, that I was willing to do anything and go anywhere at that point. And the rest is history, really. I had the most amazing weekend. I've never had anyone hold space before then, besides like a talk therapist. And here was a whole room full of strangers that were holding a loving space of acceptance and allowing me to just be in who I am. And that's to say, you know, we have all these labels and these images that we have of ourselves, this mirror image. And I got to realize throughout the years since then of just that source connection, that essential self that you find when you're in oneness and alignment, that has no words to describe. That's who I am. And when I was listening to your first podcast, and I think Tara had first mentioned it, you know, you said there's this conviction that you have that everything will be okay. And I've had that all throughout this crazy times. And you find the people around you that have that too. And it's really interesting because it's almost like I'd been preparing for this, you know, and not to say that in like to diminish the painful times that people are having, the really difficult moments that I know people are having all around the world. But I feel like I didn't belong here. I knew there was something that could happen if we just worked all together and we all came from that place of oneness, love, unity, whatever you want to call it, the source connection. It's just going to unfold so perfectly. And when I do workshops, I do breathwork workshops currently, I see it. I see that people, when you know and experience from a visceral level that there is more than all this, you know, physicality, but also what the world tells you, what the news tells you, when you see more than that, when you feel like a beaming, multidimensional light being, when you know that for sure, even if it's just for a second, or even the feeling of oneness, if it, there's so many different levels to this, obviously. But when you feel that, you can't live in the lies that are happening. You can't live in the lie of your so-and-so person that's this and that age. It's just not possible. And also, like, what brought me here, where I am, I'm currently in Utah, even that, like, I meditated and just opened myself up and said, I want to be out of LA. Show me where I'm going to be. Is this going to actually happen? And I had this mental picture of someone picking up my little 3D self and putting it somewhere. And I didn't know at the time where it was. And looking back, it's exactly where I am right now. And it's just those little confirmations that you have along the way as you deepen the groove of being in alignment and connecting with people that are in the same flow. It's just becomes stronger and stronger. So yeah, I'm actually really grateful to be here to share this space with you too, and deepen that groove of oneness and unity and love and where we all belong.
Love this deepen the groove.
I know, me too. I wrote it down. I was like, deepen the groove. Yes, Rhoda.
Deepen in the groove. Wow, there's so much to unpack from that. Thank you for being vulnerable and just really opening up in that way. When you talk about that weekend in that space that was cultivated, that people were open and they were connected and they were really holding space for each other, how could you explain that to somebody who's never been exposed to breath work? What is the difference between that weekend, that breath work that you did versus just, breathing consciously in your life or just breath alone, right? Some people have never experienced that. So could you give them an idea about what that is?
Yeah. So usually I see two different schools of breath work. So one's pranayama, and it's consciously breathing a specific way for a specific intention and a specific outcome. And it's consciously using your breath and manipulating it, like holding your breath and breathing in a certain way in order to activate relaxation or even getting more energy. But the school of breath work that I belong to, that I practice, and that I've been trained in, belongs to breath work that is therapeutic. And there's many different forms of it now, but basically the two grandfathers of it are Stanislav Grof and Leonard Orr, and both are in my lineage. And so Stanislav Grof began breath work as a way to induce the altered states that he was having or he wanted to have for his participants when LSD, which is what he was using previously, became banned, became illegal. And he realized that all these states that he was trying to get with LSD can be completely recreated with just the breath alone. And Leonard Orr used himself as a guinea pig, and he just launched into various ways of breathing and having, he would do breath work in the bath, which is quite dangerous, actually. Yeah. But he would just do all these experiments on himself to see what is possible. And he did hot water, underwater breathing, which I've done. It's very intense. It's not for the beginners, but you use a snorkel and you plug your nose and you go underwater in a warm bath. So that's extreme form of breath work, but there are various ways of breathing, and I've cultivated my own way. And you breathe for about an hour, usually actually holotropic, which was started by Stanislav Grof. It can go for 3 hours.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And that one is just breathing any way that you want, but just deeply and fast. So there's like different ways, and different breath workers have their own little special blend. Yeah. But basically the intention is that you go into kind of a shamanic altered state, and that can be explained physiologically as well. But mainly what happens is the breath, because I use a circular breath and there's no space in between. So esoterically speaking, the connection between the unconscious and the conscious kind of gets bridged, the subconscious. And you become more aware of the subconscious. So a lot of different things can happen, past life regression. People lately in my workshops have been connecting to their passed on loved ones. I personally have had experiences of all that. And also you have just kind of a deep understanding of why you do certain things. Like just realizations come up that might take years in talk therapy. What I love about it is it's just the breath. There's nothing fancy that you have to have. And there's no, it's actually quite perfect when you talk about the source connection, because when you're breathing in, it's not just oxygen, it's prana, it's life energies. You're literally bringing more life force energy into your body, allowing that to show you, to light the way of all the things that have been holding you back. Programming, whether it's ancestral, things that have happened in the past from your ancestors that you're needing to purge from your DNA. There's so much that can happen. And there's not a specific intended outcome with this type of breath work. It's just whatever happens, happens. Yeah. So it's kind of a deep dive into the unknown. And it takes a lot of bravery. And I just love doing these workshops because I'm surrounded by people who are brave and are willing to go to their deepest depths into the unknown. And how cool is that, to be surrounded by people who are willing to do that?
Wow. So rich, so rich. It just feels like a direct path of purification.
Exactly.
Like you're just going for it. You're not expecting anything. There's no attachment to any outcome. I love that. I love that. It's just whatever needs to happen, whatever healing needs to happen is happening. And so my question for you, Rhoda, is if you can remember, can sort of feel that first weekend again, just going back, like did it connect you? Can you remember what it connected you to, like emotions deeper, or what was the process of unraveling that first bit that just, you were like, yes, this is amazing. I'm going to continue this, and whatever else comes up.
Yeah. Definitely was emotional. I remember crying quite a bit, but I also remember breath work. There's a cycle that happens, and it's different for everybody, but usually there's like a ramp up of emotion and then a release, and then it's this blissful state at the end. And when you come out of it, everything is anew. And Leonard Orr, one of the grandfathers of breath work, he actually called it rebirthing. And that's what I always think of when I do it, is you birth yourself. You come out of it as a newborn in a lot of ways. And those first few moments, I remember everything was very clear when I came out of it. The world was brighter. Food even tasted better. It was just as if I was tasting everything anew. But during the breath work itself, it's interesting because when you're with a facilitator that really knows what they're doing, intuitively, they know where to literally push your buttons. Like my teacher at the time used to like press different points in my body and it would just activate something. And I remember in those early days, I don't know if it was exactly that weekend, but it was a lot of emotional release with not a lot of mental realizations, which I also love too, because it doesn't matter where the source is of that trauma. It can be anything. It can be a past life. It can, if it doesn't really matter. It's just allowing whatever comes up so that we can let it go. And I also remember, I'm pretty sure it was that weekend, but towards the end, there was this bright light that was shining the top of my head. And I remember thinking like, where's that light coming from? This room wasn't this bright before, but it was coming in from the top of my head. And I remember looking out of the corner of my eye just to peek to see what it was. And there was nothing there. And then as soon as I closed my eyes, it was just light again. And, when you experience something like that, that's otherworldly, there's no way you can have someone convince you that there's nothing else otherwise.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, I love that. It's really work without the mind, which I think is so vital for humans, right? Anything we can do to get out of our mind and just really into our body first, and then it starts connecting all the other bodies. And wow, it's wonderful.
Of all of that through the breath. And it's so simple. Again, the tagline for
so simple.
It's so simple. Like we have this, like you have Graf and Orr who like went into that same depth, right? But found different ways of connecting through the breath and modulating it to the extent where you don't have to necessarily go through the mind to unleash and just unravel. And I think that we're so conditioned in society to go through the mind that it becomes even more mystical when you have an experience of that sort, that you're like, whoa, what did just happen?
So true. And even, religion shows us that the body is dirty and it's something that we shouldn't access. It's all the stuff up here, the connection to God that we need to access. And I always stress being in the body in my workshops because that's the portal. We're meant to be here to embody all that. We're supposed to bring it down and through us and allow it to live through us.
Yeah. And how much of religion and even like faux spirituality has really put in a block right there, right?
Yes.
It's all about disconnecting. It's all about not experiencing the guilt, the shame, and as you said, the dirtiness and all of that. And you said it so beautifully, is the body is the portal. The bodies are the portal, right? We're in body for a reason. So why not stimulate and experience the body in ways that will facilitate that growth and that gap bridging, the integration of all the little pieces that we've just kind of lost along the way or disconnected from. And I think that, well, first I want to ask you, what is the difference between those two forms of breath, like the holotropic and the rebirthing. You don't have to be technical about it, but if somebody was like, oh, which one should I do? Is there a specific difference to them, or are they just pretty much the same thing, just named, with small, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that it's different now because it's evolved in a way that people have mixed different things. But from my understanding, holotropic is done with music. It's a lot longer, like I said, 3 hours. And it's done in you can breathe out of your mouth or out of your nose. There's no specific difference. It's just breathing deeply and fast. Whereas rebirthing was a lot more intentional in that Leonard Orr had this idea that our first trauma was in the birth, like our how we were born. When you think about it, we were in this warm, cozy, dark space, and then we're thrust in the world. And God knows how many people were born in a way that was not ideal. In the hospital setting, they used to take babies and put them upside down and slap them on the bum, and that's your welcome to planet Earth. And and so his the difference with him is mostly the intention, and it was more of going back to that original trauma. And his belief was that if you can overcome that, if you can take your first real breath, he specifically saw that there was an evolution of breathing that would happen when you started your breathwork journey, where you would become almost breathless in a way that kind of recreated how it was to be in the room. And then usually people gasp, like when they're taking their first breath out of that state. And it's almost like recreating what had happened, but in a more gentle, mindful, conscious way. So for him, it was more of the act of rebirthing yourself as a person. And Stanislav Grof was more into the actual I know that this works therapeutically. Let's see what happens.
And you practice both of these, Rhoda, or you have your own style?
Okay. Yeah, it's my own style. It's a combination of the two. I do mouth breathing only. And a lot of people, because there's a different school too that says you shouldn't mouth breathe, generally speaking, out in the world. And that's true. It's better for you to be breathing through your nose. But with this breath work, breathing through the mouth accesses your lower body. Your nose breathing accesses the mental and also, the ethereal and all that other stuff. Yeah. But for my intention, it's to get someone in their body. And usually with the traumas that happen throughout our life, we kind of, to me, this is the way I see it, is that we lose a part of our soul as the trauma happens. And we're kind of removed out of our body each time that happens. So the more that we ground ourselves in our body and breathing into our body, we're kind of doing a soul retrieval. We're gaining more of that and bringing it back in and gaining more power and taking pieces of our soul body and bringing it back home.
Wow.
Yeah, such an integration.
Yeah, I actually have spoken about the last time I did breath with you and I didn't breathe for a while.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this, the two of us, but I've actually have brought this up here in the podcast. The experience of that, quote, nothingness, end quote, being so full and so rich that there was nothing that was needed, even breath. And I didn't know that that could be, when you talked about the womb right now and that initial state of being in this experience, and how it's similar to that, just being in that deep embrace. And it's really touching. And it makes me think of the episode we had with Alana Bliss.
Yeah.
About birth and the traumas of birth and all of that. And so what a beautiful way to re-welcome somebody into the fullness of their beingness through
that episode really resonated.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm playing back all the breathwork sessions I've had, which I haven't done anything like you do, Rhoda, but just different pranayamas mostly. And it's interesting about that no breath, because there are times when I can go for quite a while without even wanting or needing to take a breath. It's just like Liz was talking about. That's such a beautiful, even though the breath leads you there, but then it's just this.
It's that thing, right? At some point, if a practice or teaching something, if it's effective, it self-destructs.
Yes.
Right. And we have that example right there in the moment where you bring yourself through the breath to a moment where even not the breath is needed anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's just you. Yeah. I have this thought. I've had this thought so much in my life, but someone said it. I was watching something about this, what am I trying to say? This woman who very naturally stopped needing to eat food, really, like just didn't try. It was just a very natural thing, graceful, cleaned her body and all of that. And she said something that stuck with me, that I will only do a practice if it leads to no longer needing the practice. And I'm not saying that's, good or bad or right or wrong, whatever. I was just like, yeah, that's the moment I think we're talking about here, where it's like, wow. And that's kind of next level, not that we don't still do the practices, but, to bring us back. But what is that point where we don't even need it anymore? It's just so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I like the contemplation of that as I feel myself still attached to my own practices and the things that make me who I think I am, right? It's this game we play in this earth. You help, believe in who I think I am, and I help do the same for you, and we just keep playing this thing. And at what point do we allow ourselves to just not have to even be anything?
Yeah, it's that whole paradox of nothing and everything.
Yeah. And I think what I've been noticing is that we are going through that collectively, especially in the heart space that we share and the people that we share this heart space with. We're seeing doctors dropping the MDs, right?
Yes.
Slowly seeing people just kind of lining up like, me. Like we talk about it here too, the value of you, right? I think we have even a podcast that was named of that, but like when we start kind of undressing, I'm like, oh, I'm this, I do this and do that. And we just meet in that space of just that moment of whatever that is, right? All your experiences and what's coming through. And then you receive that from somebody else. It's such a rich experience. And I feel like we've been experiencing more and more of that because we are encountering more and more of those people who are just kind of like, hey, and all of a sudden you're just right there. There's no superficialities.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even in the basic sense, like there's so many narratives, right? That people, I know I tend to do this. It's just like, who knows? So it's just like, F it, like, let it all go.
Yeah. You can swear if you want, Rhoda.
Okay, I didn't know. Like it's just that surrendering that happens.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I'm down to the depths here. I don't know. We could go on forever arguing about this and that. So let's just forget it.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not do this game.
It's just not. But I love. Oh, sorry, Liz. Were you?
Well, I was just saying, I'm really feeling this out, and let's say wishing for that, for the collective, for the greater collective, of just a moment where they just really breathe a little deeper and meet the space in themselves where they're just like, ah, this is my life. I'm going to live, and it's when I come face to face with the arrogance of humanity to think that they can defy nature or think that they are better than, without realizing that they are it, right? Yeah. And all the troubles that come with that. I mean, it can be so much easier.
It's so simple. It could be. Yeah. Yeah, but going back to the body and like bringing us back into the body, I feel like that, like you said, we've basically spent our whole lives running away from the body, whether it's from trauma, whether it's from spiritual teaching that tells you don't need it, or, whatever that is. It's so, wherever you're at, I feel like almost every human has been drawn away or jumped out or run away from their body. So just this work to bring us back is so, I think, at least to begin, is so essential and so necessary. So yeah, this breath work is, it's so great.
What do you see when you've been facilitating this for a while? And what is your favorite thing to witness? Doing that, even it could be during the process, the aftermath, whatever it is. Like, what is your
It's a lot, yeah. So usually when people get connected to their passed on loved ones, that's always like a special moment, because we don't have a way usually to communicate with our passed on loved ones. And this is like, oh, I'm just breathing and I can talk to my mom. I can feel her presence and know that I'm guided. And there's this knowing that happens for people that experience that, is that we're not alone. When I began this journey, when I had the pull to hold space in a group setting, because I've done one-on-one before, but I was really called to do a group session and to do it regularly. And I remember meditating and thinking, okay, how can I do this? Like, how can I hold space for more than one person? Like, am I actually able to do this? And as soon as I thought that, I literally heard a chorus, and it sounded like a chorus of angels saying, yes, we're so loud and so beautiful. And for me, it was just a confirmation that I don't have to hold space for every single person. I mean, yes, I'm holding the space for the group, but every single person has their own
space holders.
Exactly. Yes. So for me, it's seeing that in play out in real time. And then also during, when I see people shaking, that always tells me that they're releasing things, because, in the wild animals, when there's a trauma that happens, like if you're a gazelle and you were chased by a lion, the moment that they feel safe, the first thing that they do is shake it out. And we don't have that in our society. We can't even really scream or display anger without being judged. And so when I see that shaking, it's a particular type of shaking that happens. I see that and I know that they're releasing some things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shake it off.
It's that. Oh, it's funny that we shake today too, because I normally don't do the shaking, but we breathe and shake, and it makes me think of like the issue is in the tissue. type of thing, where we don't have enough practices in our society that really do somatic work, in the sense of like addressing what certain modalities haven't figured out yet, of like, okay, we'll give you this and it'll stop the pain. What's causing it? Why is it there? Why does my right knee still, why do I still have right knee issues when I had an injury when I was 16 years old? Like, why is there? Like, nothing got broken, right? It was just trauma at that moment, but something condensed in that space, or whatever other thing. And when you come into this opportunities to really disconnect the mind without trying to understand why, how, and you really go to another layer of the trauma, I can say this from my own experience, the release is from a different space, and it moves differently than like that, like insightful, like, oh yeah. I'm not saying that that's not good. It's just a different thing. And I think that everybody would benefit from having something in their lives where they feel that somatic tissue release. And that's going to look different for everybody, right? Sometimes just dancing.
I was going to say dancing.
You do dance practices as well, and you facilitate that. So, maybe tell us a little more.
I just finished a workshop, the dance workshop, Kundalini dance. And it's something that I practiced in Australia when I was living there. There's a wonderful goddess named Leola Antara, who did this whole track through the chakras. And I've added on to it and kind of modified it for my own use. But basically, it's using each chakra as a focus, and then you dance that chakra, like everything focused on that chakra. You dance out everything that needs to be released through that chakra, and then I bring it back to a sacral toning or chakra toning or tuning. So you use, I have people imagine that chakra is like a bowl, like a singing bowl. And when you breathe deeply in and you focus all your out breath into that chakra and using specific sounds for each chakra, it kind of vibrates, kind of like how a singing bowl would permeate through the air and kind of break up stagnant stuff. It's kind of the same thing, using your breath. And my participant from Saturday just texted me last night, and she said, I did a full body scan at the gym right after our workshop, and I've never seen anything like this, but my left and right is completely perfectly the same. I've never ever seen this happen. And so she was saying, like, I'm balanced. I'm literally, like, I can see it through the numbers that I'm balanced. So something definitely worked. But I wanted to go back to what you said, Liz, about somatic release in the body. And what I love too, that I see a lot, is when people have those specific pain areas and they ask me about it, I usually refer to Louise Hay's book, Heal Yourself, because she has a whole dictionary, like a reference point. Like neck. Okay, this is it. All these ailments. And it really shows us that our body is talking to us. It's telling us what's wrong. And that same participant that night, she asked me, my neck's been feeling really painful. I don't know what's going on, and it's been a couple weeks now. And I remembered what it was that Louise Hay had said about it. And it was the inability to be flexible or to see other perspectives. And she had just shared about how she was seeing the situation and how it was so painful for her. And it was just, when I said that, it was like connecting the dots. And, when we're aware of these certain things that are going on in our body, and we can use it in terms of how it can bring awareness to what we can work on and release, then it's like our body is working for us, you know, and this whole thing that's been happening around the world for the past 2 years, the thing that cannot be named, is, you know, showing us that there is this pull to move us out of our body and to pull us out of the trust that we can have and should have with our bodies, that it's perfectly made for us. And it's working every single day, whether we're conscious of it, not even just breathing alone. Like we don't consciously go, okay, breathe in, breathe out, but it's keeping us alive. And all the things that we don't even know that are happening in our cells to keep, you know, illness away. And it's all for us.
Yes, life is for us, never against us. And I will speak again of my new boyfriend, German New Medicine. We're in that puppy love stage of the relationship.
The honeymoon phase. So.
Yes, the honeymoon phase of just, again, it's that remembering, yes, life is for me. My body is communicating. There's nothing that's wrong.
Nothing wrong.
Of war, right? That we have to defeat some. Even the idea, I was just thinking the other day, like the idea of the immune system. Like it's just like
fighting something off.
Squad of like soldiers just ready to like, wait a minute, we want like, wait, is that really what that is? Like, can we and that's what I'm excited about this time, is it's reimagining. We get to reimagine, right? And give new meaning to everything that we've just got used to believing or thinking it was, that's what it is. Is it really that?
Yeah.
We have this chance of rebirthing at this time.
And letting go of that we have to know what's going on in the body, you know, all the little things, all the here, it's this or it's that. No, we don't have to know. We just have to go, what's the next step? What is that? And just listen to our bodies, listen to our knowing, listen to our source, because there's one practice that I love. It's medical medium. I don't know if you guys heard of medical medium, but he's all about how it's, because I was exposed to him a few years ago and I'm like, oh, this is great. It really helped me. The celery juice thing with the bladder thing that I had. Oh my God, it literally saved my life. I was like, thank you, medical medium. However, reading his book, it's all about viruses, how viruses are there and they're embedded here and there. And I'm like, I don't really buy that anymore, but it doesn't matter because whatever he's doing makes people feel better, you know? So we don't need to know. I think that's just such a beautiful realization for such mind-oriented world. We don't need to know it. Just follow what feels right.
And we don't have to agree with everything.
No.
You just pick and choose. Pick your own adventure.
Yes. And change it whenever you want.
Talk about that makes me think of the placebo effect. Do we need more proof that even if let's say the celery juice, right? If they whatever this word means nowadays, everything has been weaponized. I'm doing that in quotes for whoever's listening. Scientifically prove that the celery juice doesn't have this or whatever thing. It's doing something. So can we take our power back of like even the aspect of like living more devotionally? To like, what is it that I want to create with this experience? Like we have that kind of power and we've just forgotten. And all of a sudden we feel like we need somebody to tell us, if you put this herb here on this thing, just tune into yourself for a moment and just be like, what is it that my body needs right now? And listen to that. Trust that. And I think that leads us to our final question here.
Yes. Well, it is the final question, but I have a bonus question. But yes, let's do our final question.
Bonus question.
So let's first the final question and then the final
question and then the bonus final question. Rhoda, what have you learned about yourself through the exploration of truth? And I say exploration of truth because somebody who decides to go into the pain, right, of their experiences. They're exploring truth, whatever that means to them. Somebody who doesn't turn away and numbs out is exploring truth. Somebody that can push through that initial discomfort, everything that you've talked about, of like how your life was going and everything you were experiencing. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, there's something here.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is everything is perfect. Everything is perfectly imperfect. Yeah, I don't know why, but that comes up. I think maybe because, one of the things that I've discovered, particularly with myself, is the way that I was growing up. I was pretty much abandoned, so my parents were not around. I would wake up and they'd be gone. We had servants at the time, but so I was taken care of physically, but there was no other support other than that. And so I was left to myself quite a bit. And while I was growing up, I always thought that I had to be perfect in a way to receive love. So that showed up in different ways, in different relationships, where I had to do these mental gymnastics of like, okay, this person likes this. I'm going to be that, and I'm going to be perfectly that. And the more that I am more authentic and kind of settle into my body, into my own beingness in this body, the more it's like, no, I don't. I'm perfect just the way I am. Yes. And not to say that in a human way, but also just that trust that we were talking about, that kind of inner conviction, like who I am is just this. It's different. It's like a cloud. It's different every day. It's, or a mountain. Sometimes it snows on it and it looks a different way, but it's there. There's like an essence that's there, whether you call it source connection or connection to God or whatever. And I want to go back to how I mentioned about religion. Living in Utah now, there's a lot of religious people here, a lot of LDS mostly, but a lot of Christians. And I see the same conviction and I get it. I'm like, oh, there's a realization that people have during their spiritual journey, that all religions are the same, that it's this unnameable thing that we all have faith in, whether we call it universe or God or stars or higher self, whatever it is that you want to name it. It's this kind of perfectly imperfect thing. So yeah, and truth is such a loaded word these days. And I was looking back at my Instagram page and my posts, and there's nothing different about what I always presented in that way. And I remember posting something about how being awake, there's 2 levels to it. So you see the truth of what's happening in the world. And I've, been a conspiracy theorist for as long as I can remember. Yeah. But I see that there's like another level to that. So you see that, and then you're like, oh, I'm actually, everything that I see, I'm responsible for. And in, not to put the heavy burdens of the world on everyone's shoulder, but it's your perception of what you're seeing and how you're reacting to it. And yeah, I just think that that's the truth journey comes in those 2 forms.
Yes. Beautiful. Okay, bonus question. So we're getting, this is like subset of our entire episode because it has nothing to do with it. Although it does. Everything connects, right?
Does it connect? No, I'm kidding.
It does. Source connects. So in your bio, you had mentioned an NFT fine art curator. And I've been in the crypto space for a couple of years now. And Liz the other day was like, just explain more to me. I don't get it. Why, you know? And so I just want to hear, because for me, it's always been, it's always held a vibration of what we're creating, what we want to create, right? In a lot of ways. Sure, there's both sides to it and we have to be discerning with everything. But my question for you is, what about the NFTs or being an NFT curator? How does that connect for you in creating this new paradigm? What is that, you know, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the same with you with the whole crypto thing. I saw the possibilities of it. And for me, it's tied with my husband. So my husband's an artist. He's a curator. Okay. Traditionally, he's like a fine artist and a fine artist curator. And he's done gallery shows. And that's actually how we reconnected. So we were each other's like boyfriend and girlfriend when we were 14. So it was my first kiss. And we reconnected years later through an art gallery showing that he was doing. And so I feel like this is kind of a new venture for us in our relationship, but also it's steeped in love. Like art brings us together, we create together, and it's kind of a natural evolution. And when NFTs happened, same with Liz, I was like, I don't get it. Like, that's just weird, or it maybe even ego-based. And I think with crypto, it's the same kind of reaction that people have because it's so new, it's so weird. And people either really hate it and want to dismiss it or are really embracing it because of the possibilities. And for me, when I see that happening, it's almost like, you know, that initial feeling of distrust. It's very telling because you can see where that person's programming is in terms of fearing the unknown. Yeah. And not trusting that you have the power to dictate what that new piece of technology, information, person, whatever new that is coming to you, you're the author of that relationship. You can make it how you want it. So sure, there are things at play that are nefarious, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we are now realizing, I think in our circle and many others that we're kind of holding the space for, is that it can be a way to empower the people. Yep. The 99% or whatever you want to say. And my husband and I were doing the art curating, but it's also more than that. We're going to, after this initial launch, which is on my birthday next week, is after we launch the art gallery online, we're going to be moving towards other industries. So we're looking at real estate. He's a landscape architect. So we're looking at using NFTs to build things. And it's really exciting. So many different possibilities. Yes. And if we only allow ourselves a little inkling of like, what if? Then it opens up a whole nother world.
Yeah. Curiosity.
Beautiful. That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Rhoda.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, sisters.
Yes.
For joining together. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Did you know that the Source Connection has a Patreon page? In this Patreon page, we share tips, practices. We get a little bit more intimate with each other.
Yes, so join us over on our Patreon page if you would like to connect in another way. We hope to see you there.